Hey, everybody. Today I have for you podcast number 003. Today's podcast is titled High Octane Offense. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network podcast, where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life that you deserve. This podcast is for you if you want to live a life with less limitations and more freedom, with a healthier mind, body, and spirit. The Limitless Life Network brand was born out of the scripture in Ephesians 3:20, which reads, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us." I want to help you to recognize and tap into that limitless power that is at work within you. Today's episode is titled High Octane Offense, and today I have 5 points for you. So let's go into the backstory. So the backstory actually goes back about 10 years. I wrote a blog called High Octane Offense, and it was inspired after a conversation with a friend or an acquaintance, not super tight, but an acquaintance. And he was telling me that he was pretty nervous, and that he was about to go in to have surgery because he was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a cancer in his abdomen, and he had to have chemo and radiation afterwards. And he was really just, he was pretty unsettled by it, as most anybody would be. A young guy in his 30s, early 30s, and a couple of things that he mentioned to me, he and his wife, we were speaking, a couple of things that he mentioned really jumped out at me. And the first was that his doctor said, your cancer is genetic and you could not have done anything about it. In other words, don't worry, this isn't your fault. And no matter how you lived your life, it would have had no impact. Your number's up. This was your destiny. You were going to just have it. So that's what he was told. I can't verify how truthful that was, but this is what he passed on to me, and that's what he told me. That's what he walked away from that encounter with his doctor. And the second thing that his wife said, because they wanted some advice from myself and some other people that we know. And she said that it didn't matter. The doctor told him that it didn't matter what he ate during his treatment. So during, before or after his surgery, it wouldn't matter what he ate. And during his whole treatment process, chemo, radiation, from here on out, your diet has no bearing or impact on it whatsoever. So those are the marching orders that he walked away with, or as far as like his role in the whole process. So anyway, I have 5 points that I drew from this interaction as I went back and I reread this blog that I wrote 10 years ago, and actually the blog was written during March, which March Madness was going on back then. And I know this weekend was the first weekend of NFL football. And so I got to watch my New York Giants squeak out a win. So I was pretty excited about that. And I got to see the Buffalo Bills do really well on Thursday night. Just look like a real powerful team this year for the Bills. So pretty excited about that too. Anyway, couple of good teams there. Anyway, that's meaningless right now, but High Octane Offense is the title here, and that came from the basketball world. That's where I thought of the idea for the title back then. I still remember that. So anyway, here's the first point. The first point is that we're more alike than we are different. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we are 99.9% genetically identical. So we're 99.9% genetically identical. So that means that 0.1% makes up for all of our variations. So all of our variations, from our hair color, our eye color, our height, our weight, our skin color, and so forth. So all of those variations that we talk about, it's a very small amount. So that means that 99.9% of our genome is identical, meaning that there's a lot of things that we require as human beings to express health that is the same for everybody. And I think that's a super important fact that we should all remember, is that 99.9% of us require absolutely the same things in order to express our genetic potential. So saying that somebody can't be impacted by diet or lifestyle, I think is pretty clear today. We know about epigenetics and how lifestyle has a definite impact on our genetic expression. So that's something that you should really pay attention to. The second point that I want to bring up is that it's really important. Point number 2 is to take ownership of your circumstances. And that was a big part of this story that really spoke to me, was that, you know what, this doctor is trying to just take the stress. I think, I'm not blaming the doctor for what he said, because I don't know what he said. What I do know is what the person told me, what his patient heard. So oftentimes any of us can say something that is misconstrued. So I don't want to blame the doctor, because he may have said something totally different and was just taken that way. Because I know certainly you and I, we've all probably been misunderstood at some point. But I think a very important thing is to take ownership. And what a lot of times doctors want to do is that they want to help you, but they also want to take control, right? They want to lead you, but they also want to take control and take responsibility for your health. And the reality is that you are the one that should be responsible. In other words, you're responsible for your choices in your life. And I think everybody instinctively, maybe not instinctively, but we try to bury that instinct, so to speak. We may not want to admit the things that we need to take ownership of, but like our mistakes, right? The sooner you can take ownership of a mistake, the sooner you can correct that mistake. If you pretend like it doesn't exist, then you'll never correct it, and it will continue to rear its ugly head. Whereas if you take ownership, and I know I read a great book by Jocko Willink called Extreme Ownership, and I think it's not about placing blame, it's about taking responsibility so that you can take the appropriate actions to move on. If you just ignore the responsibility, if you place blame on something else or someone else, in other words, I have a bad set of genes, I was dealt a bad hand. Well, so what? You were dealt a bad hand. What are you going to do about it? I think back to when I was in high school and college. There was a really short professional basketball player named Spud Webb. He was 5'7". Well, he could have said, "I'm too short to play basketball at 5'7", but instead he said, "I'm 5'7", but I'm going to jump really high." And it was a gift that he had, the ability to jump, and he exploited that. He was quick, he was fast, he could handle the ball, and he got into the NBA and he won the dunk contest at 5'7". And I'll never forget that, because he owned his short height. He owned his height, and he made the best of it. So own your own circumstances. Your circumstances are perfect for who you are, and they can shape you and they can make you into a better human being. Point number 3, you have the most control over your own health, and you also have a great deal of control over your children's health. And I think that's something that most people recognize this, but a lot of people don't know how big of a responsibility it is, especially as a parent, that what you do has an impact upon how your children behave. Your children watch everything that you do. And the type of man or woman that you are, they're watching that. And you'll know when you have a little kid and you say stuff in private between maybe your spouse, and then you go into public and you hear them repeat it, and you're like, whoa, wait, we gotta really temper what we say in private, because I see it's getting repeated. That could be very embarrassing if you say something about somebody or something, even though you shouldn't, and your kid repeats it. So your habits are watched by your children, and what you do to take care of yourself is going to impact how they take care of themselves. So if they see you not taking care of yourself, obviously they're going to follow suit. But you have the greatest impact. It's not your doctor that has the greatest control over your health. It's not a department or the health department. They don't have the greatest control over your health. You actually do, as much as maybe some entities or people may want to try to take that from you. But ultimately it comes down, it's your choice. You make choices every single day that either add to your health or they subtract to your health. If you think of it like a balance sheet or a bank account, you're either making deposits or you're taking withdrawals, and that's it. So you want to grow. Wealth in the health department. So point number 4: the best defense is a great offense. So we've all watched games. Maybe you haven't if you're not into any type of sports, but tonight I watched, my football team that I've rooted for since I was a little kid, since my brother brainwashed me into being a New York Giants fan. I've watched them blow leads over the years, and I've watched them make comebacks. Every team does it, right? They get up really big on a team. Maybe you're up by, the Giants haven't been up by a lot in a long time, but anyway, if your team's up by, say, 30 points, you think, oh, we got this one in the bag. And so it gets to the fourth quarter and they're playing, what do? They go into their prevent defense and they start playing soft. They start backing up and just letting the other team kind of march their way down the field. They're just they don't care if they score because they've got to score so many times. And they actually let them score very quickly. And then now they're on, and they're trying to just kill the game. They're just trying to burn up the rest of the clock. And the next thing you know, the game is really close. It's down to the last part of the game, and the other team now has a chance, okay? And so that is where you're on the defensive. Now, when it comes to your health, if you're just trying to prevent something, if you're just trying to prevent from getting sick, then you're probably going to get sick once in a while. But if you're really trying to promote your health and become healthier and healthier, getting stronger, getting fitter, spending time doing all these things to dial in your health so that you're really getting the best night's sleep, and you're staying hydrated, you're taking supplements, you're doing all of these things that people say, well, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. But you're putting a full effort into every aspect of your health, physically, mentally, spiritually. You're just really doing a great job. You've developed all these habits. That's called a good offense. You're on the offensive versus being on the defensive. We just saw that defensive effort over the last couple of years with lockdowns, wearing masks, staying 6 feet apart, right? Isolation, all of that stuff. Did it put people into healthier situations, or did we see a problem with that? You want to ask yourself, has that made our country and our culture healthier and healthier physically, mentally, spiritually, socially? Are we healthier now because of all that? or did we actually create some other problems in the process? So that's something you could probably answer for yourself. Okay, and then point number 5, the greatest offenses are led by a great coaching staff. Interesting. So think about this. You could have the best sporting teams out there, and you'll hear about the coach. Nick Saban, great coach for Alabama. But what makes Nick Saban such a great coach is that he's got a bunch of other coaches too. And his coaches, after a while, they end up becoming head coaches elsewhere because they've learned how a successful team is supposed to work. And all of the details and the whole philosophy behind winning, it's a blueprint for success. So when you have a coaching staff that's looking out for your best interest in your health, where you're still in charge of everything, but yet your coaching staff, and that's why I call this podcast the Limitless Life Network podcast. Network is kind of a play on words. It's not just a network like broadcasting network. It's actually a network of healthcare providers and individuals that I lean on for my advice, my health advice, whether it's my trainer, whether it's my functional medicine expert, whether it's my accountability group. I have connections, and I've created a network of people and coaches that have helped me to be better healthy wise as far as my own physical health. They help me to be better as a person, as far as like pastors and mentors there. They've helped me be a better businessman. I have not been able to achieve any of where I'm at today, or any successful person that I ever met hasn't been able to do it alone. They always have a network behind them. So if you want to be healthier in any aspect of your life, look to hire great coaching staff. Look to hire somebody, all the mentors that are out there. There's a ton of mentors out there, whatever field you're interested in. And it's worth investing in that because they'll get you much further, much farther, much faster. And that's what I have for you this week. A high octane offense will always beat a prevent defense. So, all right, folks, that's all I have for this week with Limitless Life Network podcast. And I just want you to tune in every week to stay connected, inspired, and moving toward your best life by stripping away your limitations.